Play it, Sam. Play Pink Floyd, the podcast where we watch every movie ever made to see if it syncs up with Pink Floyd's 1973 magnum opus, The Dark Side of the Moon. My name, well, I'm the cousin of Cassie Blackler. I'm Gareth Blackler. And of all the podcast studios in all the worlds, you had to walk into his one. It's renowned freedom fighter, James Barron. Hello.
Hello. I'm fighting the good fight for podcasts everywhere, Gareth.
Someone's got to do it.
We're the underground resistance trying to take down Joe Rogan and his let's just say it, Nazis.
Yeah.
Podcast hot takes right at the top of the show.
A take as hot as the deserts of CASABLANCA itself.
There we go.
I'll say.
Yeah, CASABLANCA this week. Gareth, I got a lot of flack for choosing depressing movies, and I thought, well, what better to counter that than a movie set and filmed during World War II?
Right? It's what I had no idea this was actually filmed during the war.
It's wild.
And amazing. Yeah, like America had only just joined the war that year, and we're really like, well, let's make our films about it.
Yeah, like during the plot of the film, America is still neutral because it was being made, you know?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So there you go.
It's, like, I'm going to say it out front, like, it's an amazing document for this to know what, like, it was like in those times.
Yeah.
And honestly, yeah, very brave to make it about the thing that's happening during the thing happening. And I'm kind of a bit annoyed. Like, you know, we're in an age of strangeness these days.
Absolutely.
Know? The rise of some certain kinds of fascism across the world. Mm-hmm. It's a shame that, like, you know, the big studio, because this was a big studio picture. Like, it's called The Triumph of the Studio System. It was no auteur vision. It was simply people getting down to do their job and making a statement about war. And yeah, why aren't we doing that these days? Why isn't, like, a big studio saying, like, hey, Nazis are bad more often, you know?
I feel like we're due a reminder, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's people, like, they should be putting them out every year. Remember, guys, Nazis are bad. It just seems like that's all that, like, would be needed, hopefully, for people to go like, oh, shit, that's right, we forgot. My bad. Never mind. Oh, my God.
Honestly, just a push notification to our phones. Nazis are bad. And we'll be like, you know, a bunch of alt-right losers being like, oh, shit, yeah, that's right.
Whoops. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Or they just lay their phones down and go hug their fellow people.
Yeah. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Anyway. Oh, man. It's
Santa, bring that to us.
Yeah. Unlike Rick's Cafe, Gareth, this is a very politically charged intro to our show.
Yeah.
But we should talk about the movie CASABLANCA. Had you seen it before today?
I had seen it. I'd seen it at the end of a party. It was like a fancy themed party, and then, like,
oh yeah,
because it was out on the Wops.
I was at this party.
There,
yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, it was out on the Wops, so we couldn't all just get home easily. So we all stayed over and we watched CASABLANCA. And obviously, that's not the best way to absorb, you know, a classic piece of cinema, but I did remember the vibe incredibly strongly. Yeah. So when I rewatched it today, I was like, oh, yeah, these are my friends. This is my vibe.
Excellent.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah.
You were at the party?
No, I had seen it before the party, but I am a big fan. I remember leaving halfway through the screening of that CASABLANCA at that party because I was like, I've seen it before. It's fine. I need to get home. I'm very drunk right now. And yeah, it's a damn good one. Seen it. Oh gosh, I watched it like fairly young. I would have been like maybe like 12 when I saw this movie, I think, for the first time. But yeah, it was
nice.
Yeah, it's a really good one, and
it is
like it holds up. The thing about CASABLANCA is that it's a movie made in 1942. And it holds up so well, like, even now. It's like, there's a reason it has such a lasting legacy. It's just that it's such a tight story. And like the movie was based on a play, and I feel like you can really tell, you can really like feel that sort of play energy, because the like most things play out at Rick's Cafe, and just the dialogue and all the like the scenes play out as if they were a play. It feels and I find that really adds to it and really like makes it a fun watch, you know? Yeah.
There's an amazing use of extras and minor characters in this movie. Like, that probably comes from it being a play and them having to be economical with the number of actors.
Yeah.
And, like, you see, there's a couple in it who their storyline kind of builds, but you're seeing them in the background of a lot of shots early on.
Yes,
and watching it build. And, yeah, it also, this movie has such a deep bench of talent. And it's due to the war, because a lot of these amazing European actors were fleeing the war to the then neutral USA, and then were available and like willing to take any work. So you've got these like fantastic actors playing like tiny roles in this film.
Yeah.
And even the guy who plays the main Nazi.
Yeah, Strasser.
He fled Germany. His wife was Jewish. And he outright said, like, I want to play villains. I want to play Nazis because we need people to know how bad they are. Yeah, I want to use my power to get this word out.
That's awesome.
Which is so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Fun fact about that guy as well was that he was the highest paid actor in the whole film.
I read that. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's sweet. Just because he like had the like I guess the hardest role really, and that he like a genuinely traumatic role for him to play. But like so well earned. But yeah, it's such a sweet watch. If you haven't seen Casablanca, I feel like how are you listening to this podcast? But like go ahead and watch it, because it's well worth a watch. A lot of fun. Yeah,
it's amazing how it transcends the fact that it is seeped into culture like a sponge dropped on a bigger sponge. Like, the second sponge is so massive that the sponge just falls into. I think 6 of these quotes from this film were in the AFI's top 100 American film quotes of all time. And like, it's been parodied. I think it must have been briefly public domain in the 90s or something, because there was a 90s surge of Casablanca, which led to something I had seen many times, which was Carrot Blanca, the Looney Tunes parody of Casablanca. Where Bugs Bunny is Rick and Tweety is Peter Lorre, and the cat that Pepe Le Pew chases is Elsa, which is a very interesting bit of casting, mainly because they didn't have Lola Bunny yet, so they didn't have female characters.
Right. Does Pepe play Laszlo? Victor Laszlo?
No, Pepe just does Pepe's thing. He's a waiter and then an air host.
Right.
Yeah, it's...
Man.
You know... doing his thing, reason why he was cut out of Space Jam 2.
I mean, fair.
Speaking of Space Jam 2, because we are talking about the great cinema tonight.
Yeah.
This is the second film we've covered that is visited by... the third film we've covered that is visited by LeBron James in Space Jam 2.
Okay, good.
And after The Matrix and Mad Max, Fury Road, completely accidentally, this year, over the last calendar year... I've watched every film LeBron James visits in Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Gareth, I've never been more proud of you. That is wonderful news.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Along with the aforementioned 3, I've also seen Wonder Woman 1984, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. And I'm blanking on the other, but I have seen it.
I don't know.
Excellent. I think that's all of them, actually. I think they only go to 5. And then, the rest come to them.
Yeah. One episode of Rick and Morty or something.
Yeah.
You know? Thrown in for bad luck? Unknown.
Completism.
Yeah. Oh, man. Should we do it? Should we talk about Casablanca then? And how it synced with the good old Pink Floyd boys? Their musical style.
People are going to be mad that we haven't mentioned, if we don't mention this. Pink Floyd sampled Casablanca in their song Yet Another Movie off the album A Momentary Lapse of Reason. Have you heard this song?
I have not at all. Absolutely not.
Okay. I listened to it and I could not hear the sample. It's at the very, very end of a very long song, and an interesting moment for Pink Floyd, where Roger Waters had left the band, but Richard Wright then, because he'd been fired by Roger Waters, he rejoined the band, but because Roger Waters served him with such a thick contract to be kicked out, he wasn't allowed to technically be listed as a band member on that album.
Whoa.
So the inline photo after this amazing album cover by Storm Thorgerson with all the beds on it. The inside photo is just David Gilmour and Nick Mason, these like two old men just broing up.
Just alone. In a field full of their friends.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Amazing.
Yeah. I don't really recommend that song. I don't think the 80s production flows well with Pink Floyd, but, you know.
Okay. I'll be seeking it out
enjoy.
Regardless after the podcast, just for completism. Cool. Let's talk about this movie. We get opening titles, Speak to Me, you know the drill. It's actually, for real, opening titles. I say that every time, but we do actually have opening credits for this movie. As much of cinema was like at the time, we get the credits at the start, which is nice. And they like fit perfectly over the entirety of Speak to Me as we go into Breathe for the film beginning proper, which I thought was quite tidy. And yeah, we get some much needed context at the start of this movie with what refugees are doing, escaping the Nazi regime as it sweeps across occupied France and Europe, etc. And yeah, the people fleeing across out to Africa to Casablanca to try and fly to Lisbon and then the neutral United States. So it's a path that many refugees were taken to get out of France. All true. And then and then we go down to the streets of Casablanca. We're looking at like a globe for that.
This cool kind of like big model globe.
Yeah.
That's just speeding around.
Very nice. And we're going down to the streets of Casablanca, which are busy as loads of extras. Looks really nice. And we hear this news about these couriers, Nazi couriers, being murdered, and they were carrying important documents. And there's like a telegram going out, and so all the police in Casablanca are like arresting up random people, random immigrants, on suspicion of this murder case. The police outwardly corrupt here in Casablanca, and it's just how it goes. One dude has like expired papers apparently, and tries to make an escape, but gets shot down. And we see very obviously they pull out like a poster of the Free French movement that he is carrying around with him as proof that he's like an underground member of the French government. Yeah, pretty funny. Well, like not really a member of the government, more so like in aiding the French government in exile.
Yeah, they just didn't have business cards back then. You had to take a whole poster somewhere.
Yeah, it's like he's handing them out. like you should join this thing. Nazis,
here's
guys.
An A1 poster.
He's doing the yearly reminder that Nazis are bad. He's the first one. Oh gosh. Anyway, so we go into On the Run here after this like brutal murder on the streets of Casablanca for like a relatively fun sequence where like a pickpocket bit part character is like explaining what's going on to a pair of like very posh holiday makers.
So posh.
I don't know who these guys are, but they are like parodies. But they're great.
They don't even know there's a war happening.
No, they don't. Yeah, they have a line. The guy says, "We hear very little and we understand even less," which is just such a wonderful thing to say.
Yeah.
Basically, he explains that people wait many, many years in Casablanca to try and, well, not many years, they wait ages trying to get a visa to escape. and many people try and bribe the police to get out, to get those visas. And yeah, it's a very unsafe place because many unsavory characters are around, but it is still neutral territory. So it's not occupied. It's like occupied both by Vichy France or Vichy France rather, and the German regime, Nazis, the Reich, etc., and also just like all these immigrants trying to escape. So they're all there at the same time. Casablanca is sort of this like strange melting pot. Yeah, where the government is like absolutely corrupt and is just going serving the highest bidder at the time.
Yeah,
effectively.
Yeah, it's interesting. We don't often get like serve the highest bidder people in World War II movies.
Yeah.
So it did take me forever to figure out like what was going on with one of the characters here. I was like, no, he's bad. Oh, but why he help?
Yeah. But why he help? Yes. Is it either Ferrari, who has the best name, or
oh yes, he does.
Or Louis Renault, the chief of police.
Louis Renault, yeah.
Yeah. He's, oh man, we'll get to him. Anyway,
yeah. Ferrari, I was a little more conditioned to. I think I've seen people parodied of him before, just being like, fanning themselves and serving high bidders. And I was like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen you in a bit part.
He's much more like oblique about what he's about, you know? He's like, this is what I'm doing. But I think he outright says at one point that he's like the leader of the black market or something. Just like out in the open, he's like, I'm the most important person in the black market. And it's like, what? Why would you say that? Anyway. Yeah.
It's like these days being like, I'm very popular on the dark web. You know, many friends.
Exactly. Shout out to all our deep fakers.
My dark web TikToks.
Oh my God. The dark web TikToks. Goodness me. I don't want to know what they're about.
No, that's much longer.
Yeah. Much lengthier memes that are just too tough to understand.
Yeah.
So we get the sign for Rick's Cafe American or Americian. I don't know. I really don't know. It's American with an extra I in it.
Yes.
So I'm not. It's probably just like French for American, but I don't really know. Either way, and a plane has landed, and it's a German plane, and Major Strasser is getting off the plane, representative of the Third Reich, with a temperament that you can expect from such a person, and he's being greeted by, as you say, Louis Renault, who is the chief of police here in Casablanca. And he is effectively, he's an outwardly corrupt official who aids both Vichy France and the Nazis, and does so many horrible things in this movie. And then you end up rooting for him, right at the end. It's wild. It's the thing with this guy is that the casting of him, the actor that plays him, is so likable. That in spite of all these things, you end up siding with him. It's he does such nasty, terrible things. But boy, he's just got a winning smile. All right.
Yeah, honestly, he could just move into my house and kick me out, and I'll be like, oh, love what he's done with the place.
I guess that's fair. He is the chief of police.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't have enough money to stop him from doing this. He did say 10,000 francs and he wouldn't, but I just can't get it together, so I guess this is just how it goes. Never mind. But yeah, I have much more to say about him. I also think it's just because I think I like him so much because I think he gets the best lines in the whole movie. He just has a lot of great one-liners. And he's just he's a smiley, knows he's a bad guy and is outwardly telling everyone as such. But quiet and confident, and doesn't he doesn't do anything like horrible on screen either. So I don't know. Like, he doesn't shoot anyone, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not actually defending him, but I do like him.
You're just saying
anyway.
he's got a charm.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway.
Yeah.
So Strasser wants to be updated about the murder of the couriers, and Louis Renault has rounded up twice the usual amount of suspects that he would. And yeah, but he's like, but it doesn't matter because he's confident that the murderer will be at Rick's, which is the cafe that Rick runs, obviously, and it's a notorious gambling den / bar where like all kinds of deals are made in Casablanca, and also it's because of the like melting pot situation there. It's sort of like a condensed version of that inside. Where, because Rick runs the place and he is neutral on all matters and, like, has a policy of, like, leaving politics and that kind of thing at the door, it's like a generally safe place. But, yeah, it's a notable place where all kinds of, like, black market deals happen that the police allow to stay open because Rick himself has never broken the law.
And it like serves them as well to know.
Absolutely,
this is happening here. This person's probably going to be here.
Yeah, they use it a lot of the time and to like make arrests and things. They know that like people come here, so it's just this like known quantity kind of place. But yeah, it's really weird. Pretty wild, by the way, that Rix is able to maintain this like neutral stance while World War II is happening. Like.
Yeah,
just like not the fact that like Frenchmen and Germans are rocking up to the same bar and nothing really goes wrong is pretty insane. But yeah, anyway.
I suppose what people have been saying across the whole pandemic and all the other recent awfulness in the world is like, whatever you would have done during the war or would have done in like the plague or something is what you're doing now. So for the day-to-day person, maybe they could have maintained some sort of, I'm not really into politics, I don't really follow the war kind of thing.
Yeah, potentially,
yeah, which just seems wild now. And I mean, honestly, people will probably look back and be like, those guys recorded a Pink Floyd podcast in the 2020s.
Yeah. That's the real anomaly. Yeah, who am I to talk, really? Gosh. Anyway, so yeah, he knows that the culprit will be there wanting to sell the documents that were talked about and basically get them out of their hands as soon as possible. We don't really know what they are yet, but we will. So we roll into Rex for the crash sound in On the Run coming in. It's not really matching with much, but it's just sort of Sam playing the piano. Who's a good dude. A lot of good piano tracks in this movie. Yeah, he's playing one of my favorite songs ever, It Had to Be You, which has been a song that's been redone multiple times. But yeah, really, really great track. And a lot of like fantastic, besides as time goes by, lots of like great piano standards in this movie. So if you like piano, this is a great movie for you.
Fascinatingly, he did what the mistake we made with Pink Floyd is that he was a drummer, but he's playing a pianist. So he's actually miming all the piano.
Yeah, you can kind of tell. But that's fine. Like, you know, it's all good. Piano, also a percussion instrument technically, so, you know.
Whoa, yeah.
It'd be all good. It's basically the same. It's just imagine that you have 88 drums, very small in front of you, and some of them are white and black, you know? It's all good. And your fingers are the sticks.
What if they panned down, he was just playing this piano with little sticks?
I would love
that. It's the only way I know.
Yeah, it's how I learned. He's just got one tape to each of his fingers.
Oh.
Yeah. Old stick fingers, they call them.
Yeah, stick fingers Sam.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, so we're just looking around the bar. There's like various like fairly obvious deals taking place, which we are listening in on as the clocks come in. Again, no real syncs. And yeah, Rick is called upon to have a drink with like a group of customers, but the server guy says that he doesn't drink with anyone, again painting his neutrality. He doesn't want to like show that he's on the side of basically anyone in the cafe, because if he takes a drink with like lots of people of different high statuses come to the cafe all the time as well. And if he was seen drinking with a certain group, that would be bad, right? People could take offense. So he tends to stick to himself. And then, we meet him. He's playing chess against, like, no one. But, yeah, here he is, Rick, Humphrey Bogart, in the role. Playing chess against a missing opponent. And,
he's just that neutral. He can't play against anyone.
No, that would be too much. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Can't be seen to play chess against anyone except myself. A guy, like, isn't let into the gambling den and tries to like flex his authority, being like, I've been into every gambling den from here to Timbuktu, and Rick's like, I don't care who you are, get the hell out. And Ugarte sneaks in here while this is happening and comes over to Rick and has a chat to him. He's like a sneaky guy who gets people visas as well. He steals visas from people and sells them at like a fraction of the price that Renault and other people sell visas for. So he like swipes deals out from under people and is sort of like a slimy kind of guy. But he has come into possession of these documents that the couriers were carrying. It's not clear if he killed them, but if he committed the murder, but he has the documents, and they are the MacGuffin for the movie. They are letters of transit, and they are this mythical document that allows for safe passage to anywhere in occupied Europe and France, etc., to like anywhere in the world, and they can't be questioned by any kind of authority. No such document exists, obviously, but but this is the thing, that they're like golden tickets effectively out of World War II and this terrible situation. So they are very special, and he is stoked to be selling. He wants to sell them tonight so that he can get out of Casablanca finally. He says he's like bought he's bought his own like letters of transit effectively for himself, his own visa for himself. And Rick asks him if he got it from Renault or himself, and he says, myself, I found myself much more agreeable, which is very good. Basically he wants Rick to look after these documents and hold them for him for safekeeping while he is in the establishment before he sells them. And that's fair enough. Like, and Rick is the only person that he trusts, again, because of his like renowned neutrality. And also because he doesn't like Ugarte. He's like, I know that you won't like screw me over because you don't like me, but you might be impressed with me, is what he says.
He really wants Rick to be impressed by him. He does it, like he even says like, you despise me, don't you? And then Rick says, if I gave you any thought, I would. Which is, damn, got him. And we cut back to the open bar, and there is Sam is doing a great version of Time by Pink Floyd instead of Knock on Wood, which is a song that everyone in the bar is singing along to. And Rick swoops through and stores these letters of transit inside the top of Sam's piano. Not a great place to store something. I guess it is a secret kind of place. If Sam ever does anything with those lower keys, we're in trouble.
You don't want these incredibly important documents falling around inside the piano. Just for notes.
Munched up.
Yeah, not a great plan, but never mind. We get Senor Ferrari coming in, who is like Rick's business rival, I guess. He owns another bar here in Casablanca, the Blue Parrot. And yeah, he's head of or like a black market bigwig type coming in. He's a big guy. He's got a fez. I like him.
Yeah.
He basically comes in like pretty regularly, it would seem, to try and buy the bar and also like buy Sam as an entertainer.
Yeah.
And like they make a very awkward joke about human trafficking, which is pretty brutal. But like, again, true probably of the time. But hey, Rick doesn't outwardly say no to this, and he's like, oh, we should go ask Sam if he wants to go. And Sam makes excuses for not to leave. He's like, oh, Ferrari would pay you like twice what I pay you. And he's like, I haven't got the time to spend the money that I get here. You know? He's like, well, there you go. You heard it from him.
Sam does a lot of this, like, I'm lying to protect, like, because I love Rick so much, but I'm not that good at lying. So it's like, too busy to spend money. It's not because I like Rick.
No, it couldn't possibly be that. That's not fair to say. It's only 1942, Gareth.
Yeah. Ooh.
Oh, gosh. Anyway, we go into Great Gig, like right at the end of time here, as basically Ferrari has been rebuffed. And we've got Yvonne, I think her name is. It's like Rick's immediately dumped girlfriend, who is like here, like just drinking herself silly because Rick is ignoring her and basically trying to brush her off. Rick is an incredibly like guarded and person. He'd be a terrible person to try and date. And Yvonne is really feeling it and gets basically escorted home in a cab by the bartender here. But I think she's just here to introduce how like messed up Rick is. Really. How like it seems like at this stage he doesn't really care for people. He's just all cynicism, all sarcasm all the time, you know? And that's sort of his deal. Yeah, as this is happening, we see that Louis Renault, or Louis, I just call him Louis, I think, for the rest of my notes, the chief police guy. Is sitting outside, and these guys are like, weirdly, even though they're like pretty much opposites in terms of roles, they're pretty good friends, because, well, they just like hang out together and have been interacting for a long time together, so they have this sort of rapport. And they have a chat as they watch the plane to Lisbon taking off, and they're like, I think you'd want to go on that plane, blah, blah, blah. They go on inside, and because there's a big win at the gambling tables, which Rick has to sort out with a payment from the safe, and the police chief again just like wanders on through and follows him around, I guess because no one can stop him. They go like walk and talk, and Louis reveals that they're going to do the arrest at the club, and to like prove himself to the major as like this hotshot, he's like waited to do it here on purpose. And Rick states that he won't interfere in whatever is going on. So he says that he doesn't stick his neck out for anyone. Is a recurring thing here. Like that's like very much his character.
Yeah, you don't even see his neck.
Yeah, hidden underneath that tie. Gosh. Louis just like wants to make extra sure and warn him, because he like gives an extra warning, being like, we know the visas are sold here, but we haven't arrested you because we know that you have never sold one. And he says that the character that they're arresting that he's worried about the arrest being made because a high-profile target of the Third Reich is coming as well, Victor Laszlo, who will be wanting to buy those exit visas and cannot be allowed to leave Casablanca, basically.
Yeah.
And Laszlo is described here. He is a Czech resistance leader and fugitive from a concentration camp. He fled that and ran across the country and has evaded evaded capture by the Nazis on 3 separate occasions. So he's this hero of the resistance, basically.
Yeah.
Who is arriving in Casablanca tonight. And Rick is like, oh, well, it's I bet you'll put on a good show, but he's definitely going to escape because he's escaped 3 times already. So, and so they make a friendly wager of 10,000 francs that Rick bets that he'll escape and Louis bets that he won't. And there you go. And Louis says that he won't escape because he's traveling with a lady. And he's like, oh, well, he'll just abandon the lady. And Louis is like, I've seen the lady. He's not going to do that. We go into money now. And Louis is, he's warning Rick because he suspects that at heart he's a sentimentalist, his words. But he has this cool demeanor and is outwardly neutral on all matters and doesn't stick his neck out for anyone. But he suspects that secretly he's a big softie because of 2 separate things. Basically, he ran guns to Ethiopia during the Ethiopian War and also fought on the losing side in the Spanish Civil War. In fact, both of those sides were the losing side. And so because of that, he suspects that he wants to help those in need, basically, as a character trait, secretly. Even though he acts like he doesn't. And Rick neither confirms nor denies, but is interrupted by the Major arriving at the cafe. There is a really good line from the maitre d' guy who says, I hope you've given him the best table. And the guy says, I've already given him the best table, knowing that he is German and he would take it anyway. Which is just brutal, but completely accurate. So good. He has Major Strasser down just by looking at him. Hilarious. They place guards at the door to prevent the murderer's escape or the person that they're arresting. And we see Ugarte being called away by police to be arrested, basically. And he goes and cashes his chips because he's been betting on the roulette wheel and has done quite well. He's made 1,000 francs. So at least his last moments, he's had a good time, had some good luck before his terrible luck. And then, he tries to get away from the police and ends up firing his gun into the crowd and runs over to Rick and begs him to save him, pulling on his lapels. Saying save me, Rick. And Rick, there's nothing to be done. He's already arrested, basically. The whole place is surrounded and Rick just taesn't move. And Ugarte is taken away. Fully in, turtled. Ugarte's taken away, and Rick stops the silence by getting Sam to start playing, everything returns to normal as if nothing had just happened. And then he goes over to meet the Nazis at the table because Louis oh, come over, I told you he wouldn't interfere. There's nothing to worry about, Rick. and they very ineloquently like grill him about his past because they know all this stuff about him. They know all that like war stuff about him, all his previous service history, and also like know like where his recent whereabouts. They knew that he fled Paris when the Germans came, the Gestapo came through, and yeah. And he's like, what would you think about Nazis in your beloved Paris? And he's like, I don't really care for Paris. It's fine. So basically, they like lay down this warning again not to interfere with Laszlo, just sort of threatening all this like extra information that they have about Rick, being like, nah, don't interfere, don't fuck with us. Yeah, bit of posturing. And yeah. We go into Us and Them, and then Laszlo himself arrives, Victor Laszlo, and Ilsa. His lovely lady friend. And they walk on in, and Sam immediately recognizes Ilsa and just has this like look of dismay on his face, like, oh no. And yeah, they're looking around for Ugarte, who's obviously been carted off shortly before this. And this guy comes over to talk to them. Berger is his name. And he's just like the most obvious spy that's ever existed. Gets out like his secret decoder ring and like flashes it. It's so funny. He's like, at your service, sir. I love you so much. I'll be over at the bar. But yeah, this guy's really silly. But yeah, and then Chief of Police Louis comes over and welcomes Laszlo to Casablanca. Again, very eloquent. He's got more like just banger lines. He says, like to Ilsa, he says, I have heard that the most beautiful woman has come to visit Casablanca, and I see that that was a gross understatement. Which is like, damn.
So skunks.
Yeah. And he brings the round of champagne, and he says that he'll pay for everything. And he says, it's a game that we play. They bring me the check and I tear it up. It is most convenient. Just such a flex.
Yeah.
And he talks about Rick, because they haven't heard of Rick. And he says that like if he was a woman, he would be in love with Rick. Which is just such a funny thing to say. And there you go.
I love these like subtle undertones in this film. Like we just talked about the one with Sam, and now this one. It's like, damn, everyone loves Rick.
Yeah, dude. Rick's like this this cool guy. He's the coolest guy.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true. Like, he's already Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah.
And then you give him like these Rick lines to say.
He is cold as ice. He sticks his neck out for nobody. He's like James Bond, you know?
Yeah. Oh, they should cast Humphrey Bogart as the next James Bond. Oh, wait.
Whoa.
Hold on, I've just checked the news. Not looking good for Bogart.
No, not looking good. Also, really? Never mind. Yeah, so we get Strasser comes over and introduces himself again, like very sketchy, being like, I know who the hell you are, blah, blah, blah. But Laszlo feels safe because Casablanca is neutral soil and therefore he can't be arrested. This is the glaring hole with Casablanca, because they would snap this guy up and not give a shit about where they were. He's an enemy of the Third Reich. He would be so dead if they found him in this bar. There is no way.
Yeah. Even the playwright was always saying, I think while they were shooting, he's like, no one's asked me about this. No one's asked me about the huge hole in my plot.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of waiting, I guess, until someone says something.
It's fine. There's a magical document that like means they can leave easily. You know, it's all good. There's this gaping hole, but you know, it's fine.
This movie might be in the Doctor Who universe, and these magic papers might be that like blank piece of paper they use as a plot device in that. Like
exactly,
it shows whatever you need.
That's the magic paper. Yeah. Doctor Who and the magic paper.
Oh, maybe Humphrey Bogart can play the next Doctor Who.
No.
Oh, wait, I've just checked. Oh,
no.
No, no. Why do I keep doing this?
It hasn't updated in the last 35 seconds. Oh,
he didn't get better.
Oh, Humphrey Bogart's back. He's back in a big way.
Recovered.
Oh, God. Anyway.
That'd be the way to do it, eh? He's back to life after, 50 years.
Yeah.
60 years. And he's playing Doctor Who and James Bond.
God damn. What a powerhouse.
Yeah. He's announced at the, end credit scene of a Marvel movie as well.
Of course. Oh, my God. I'm back. Here's looking at you, audience. Oh, man. Anyway, so basically they, at very demanding request, make an arrangement for a meeting tomorrow in Louis' office where, Laszlo's going to be grilled, basically, about escaping a concentration camp. So that'll be a fun meeting. And yeah, we get another performance, a very good performance of Pink Floyd's song here by the band, except we've got a lady on acoustic guitar playing along with Sam now. She's great.
You go.
Oh, she just she doesn't have a lot to do in this except play guitar. She does give this fantastic look at the Nazis when they come in for the second time. Though she just does this half smile, half sneer at them while playing, and it's just such a good little piece of acting. Anyway, you were saying?
Yeah, it's kind of all you can do. I do want to ask someone who plays the guitar. She's playing this weird, right? Her one hand is way too high up the neck of the guitar. Would she still be getting results?
Yeah, you can do whatever you like. You just get a different sound depending on where you strum. If you're strumming up the neck, that's fine. A lot of people do that if they have a strap around the guitar, but just because that's a more natural position for where your hand will be. But to get more sound out of the guitar, you'd typically play over the hole. But anyway, it's fine. You can still do that. But yeah, it just depends on how long your arms are and how high the guitar is in terms of the relation to your body, you know? But yeah, it works out okay.
Yeah.
But I guess it's definitely weird. I will give you that.
Yeah. I suppose these days, a lot of people learn guitar or they've seen probably 1,000 people playing a guitar before they even pick one up. In the old days, there was no MTV or YouTube. You're not going to just sit down and watch Ed Sheeran or, the Ramones. You're going to have to, figure out how to play this guitar and where to put your hands and try to look normal.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. She definitely can play guitar, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Unlike Sam and his piano, I think there's no faking, her playing the guitar, so,
It's one of the harder ones to fake, I suppose.
Yeah. There's also a full house brass band that gets very little mention. There's 3 trombone players and stuff. That's a pretty cool vibe.
Yeah. Again, if she's playing a guitar in a way that's going to make it way quieter and she's in front of 3 brass instruments, I'm
yeah.
What are you bringing?
I don't know, but I don't know. I like her presence very much so.
Yeah, for sure. She's great.
Yeah.
And I think she's quite famous and uncredited.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Uncredited also in this podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So much we love cinema.
Yep. There we go. We've got to move on. We've got more to say. We got Laszlo going over to meet Berger at the bar, talking about the papers, etc. And he finds out that Ugarte is under arrest, so that's a bust now. And Sam comes over and meets with Ilsa at her request. And he's super awkward, trying to again protect Rick. He's like, Rick, who are you talking about? I don't know any Rick. Oh, that Rick. Oh no, he's not here, and he won't be here ever. He's over at the Blue Parrot. He's always over there. He's never here. Go there. But yeah, and Elsa's like, you're really bad at this, Sam.
Yeah.
Why don't you do something you're fantastic at and play the piano? Why don't you play play it once for old time's sake. Play as time goes by. Yeah, as you said last week, no one says play it again, Sam, in this movie, even though that is something that is oft misquoted with Casablanca. Most people will say that and you'll be like, oh, Casablanca, but yeah, no one says it in the movie. So, it's like, no, I am your father in Star Wars as well. Like, same kind of thing.
Yeah, or beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah.
They never say that in Star Trek. Or in Casablanca, to be honest.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Well, this is imagine if someone got beamed up in the background of Casablanca.
Well, if it's in the Doctor Who universe...
Yeah.
I don't know if they do much beaming in that.
Oh, man. The Next Generation was obsessed with, like, the 1940s and stuff. They were always doing this kind of, like, old noir stuff in the holodeck episodes. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone gets beamed up.
Yeah. But alas, the only beaming is me watching the movie.
Yeah. No. Yeah, me beaming as well, because we're getting a lovely rendition of As Time Goes By that we aren't hearing.
Song rules.
Yeah.
The song is so good.
It is. It's really lovely.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it's like lilting and is in minor key, which is very unusual for like a big hit of the time. It's like a very sad song. Much like Pink Floyd, honestly, and a lot of the tracks on the album. So that's a fairly good fit, really. That this is the matching track. This is the standout track for the album, for the album, for the film rather. But yeah. But yeah, for us, we're having us and them playing over this, I believe.
Yeah. It's like us and them could fit because us and them is a song that's like exhausted with war. It's, it's like trying to look above the war and point out how silly it is, which is like a prevailing theme in all the characters' heads. Like,
yeah, definitely.
They're all exhausted with this war. They all know that war itself is the true villain.
Yeah.
So like it kind of works. It just doesn't quite like musically hit any notes at the right times.
No, absolutely not.
No.
But that's okay. We will not fault the movie for that. It's not its fault.
No.
So yeah, from here we go to Any Color You Like coming on in, and this is when Rick comes over outraged that he's hearing Any Color You Like. I mean, as time goes by. He's like, I told you never to play that song. There's no lyrics. No. And then yes, he's very shocked to see Ilsa there. And he's like, oh, what the hell? They're just sort of stunned. And then Louis comes back with Victor Laszlo and is trying to make introductions. But of course, Rick already knows Ilsa. And it's just, he's like, whoa, what? You guys know each other? And then it's just a series of surprises for Louis, who's sort of narrating what's happening for everyone, which is very funny. But yeah, he breaks precedent by sitting down and having a drink with them. And he sort of half reminisces about when he last saw Ilsa. Says the Germans wore grey, you wore blue, which is just such a good line. Come on. And yeah, he pays for the drinks, breaking another precedent. Because Louis never seen Rick buy a drink for anyone else. And yeah, he's just like, what the hell is going on here? And then he's like, well, this has been very interesting, but it's time for everyone to go to bed because there's a curfew. And also, I'm the chief of police.
Yeah.
Which is very funny. He talks a lot about cab fares and stuff, It's very good. It's like he's saying speak to me, opening titles, you know the drill. But yeah. So they head off and Rick just is so floored by it. He just sinks down into his chair, and then we see many hours later he's just sitting in the dark alone, drinking himself silly, as Sam comes in to console him, and we go into brain damage, and he's just drinking himself towards brain damage. He doesn't want to remember, and suddenly this like girl has come back into his life. And we get into like a flashback of their time together in Paris. His lost love, Ilsa. And he says that he's like waiting for her to come back to the bar and explain like what the hell happened. And then, we see why, because, we also get the line of all the gin joints in all the world, and she had to walk into mine. Which is another, like, that's one of the quotes, one of the 6 quotes. Yeah. It's in the top 6.
I hope all the writers high-fived after these or something. I hope they knew they were doing something powerful.
Yeah. We need to bring back gin joints, by the way. The more gin joints I can walk into, but it's just going to improve my life drastically.
You should build tiny gin joints and attach them to every door, and then you walk into them in order to get to another room.
Have a wee sip as you get in. Take a shot of gin as you enter a room. Yeah, there we go.
I'm sure that'll work out great.
Yeah. They called him James Barron, inventor of gin joints. Yeah. Anyway. But we go into this flashback as he's like, we see like the Arc de Triomphe behind them. In case you didn't know it was Paris. Just going into this flashback of them in love with each other. They haven't like said anything about their pasts to each other, and yet they've fallen in love. There's a massive age difference between them. I think of like at least like 15 years. I don't know. Like it's weird. She's a lot younger than he is. There's a very awkward bit where he asks her like, "Oh, what were you doing 10 years ago?" And she's like, "I was getting braces." And he's like, or at least I was. He talks about how we go into Eclipse, and he talks about like he can't believe how lucky he is. Like, why hasn't she got a man already? And she says, well, it's a really simple answer. I did, and he's dead. And he's like, oh, right, I forgot. We weren't talking about our past. Ha ha ha. Like, whoops. We're getting we see them like having a wonderful time at the bar with Sam, and then the Nazis roll in. It's the occupation of occupation of France is beginning, and it's announced, and they have to drink all the wine in the bar because they're fleeing their country. And just hang out with Sam, who's like, well, this is a good way to spend occupation. And that's how we round out playthrough number 1 over the heartbeats. It's like this very awkward situation with these guys just all drinking in this bar. And we go into playthrough 2 as they're talking about where they want to what they want to do. Like, they've got to flee the country. Basically, Rick has to leave tomorrow because he's wanted. He's a wanted man. I guess because of his roles in previous wars. I don't really know what it is that he did. Some kind of unknown past thing is haunting him. Yeah.
He can't go back to America, it sounds like.
Yeah, for some reain. Again, that isn't explained either. He's an expat of some kind, but we don't know what's going on. So he's like, we have to leave, and she's like, oh, right, yes, we. Anyway, I've got some stuff that I need to do in the city before we go, but I'll definitely catch up with you later. Bye. And then Rick says, like, he says that they should get married on the train, and she's just like smiling but crying about the situation. Clearly torn up about something, not just the Germans coming in and potentially killing them all. And they have a parting kiss, and then we go into On the Run as they're catching the train, and it's pouring with rain. I love this shot at the train station. It's really, really good. And Sam arrives with his suitcase, and he says that he went to Ilsa's apartment and she wasn't there, but there was a note, and we get the note explaining that she's like, I'm sorry, but I can't ever see you again. Please understand. You've got to go to keep you safe. I love you. And that's sort of it. The note is running with the rain, which is just such a good shot. Like the ink is just pouring off the page as they film it. It just looks wonderful. What a good effect.
Yeah. The like power it would have taken to get this, to get that ink to run right, but it's still readable.
Get the page to stand still. It's being held in someone's hand. It's wild. Looks great. And Rick, completely in shock, just jumps on the train and tosses this note away, just can't believe it. It's completely blindsided. And then, we cut back to the present day. And, Sam is still trying to take care of him as Ilsa shows back at the cafe, shows herself. She's, wrapped up in this white shawl, vaguely angelic. And, she, tries to explain herself, but Rick is belligerently drunk and doesn't want to hear it. Just been tearing himself up over this story that's come back to haunt him all of a sudden, and it's just feeling horrible and is really, really hot, nasty to her. It says she tries to explain, tells the story, and he's like, has it got a wow finish? You left me on the train. My story ended with a wow finish where the guy has no idea, just kicked in the junk and sent on his way or something like that. She tells the story of her moving to Paris and falling in love with this courageous man that she heard so much about, blah, blah, blah. Rick assumes that this is him, and he's like, I've heard so many stories like that before. And they all start that way, and they all end with somebody alone. And then it's just I guess neither one of our stories is very funny. And all the clocks go off. We get the crash sound just before that, and then the clock's going off. Again, nothing really syncing with these guys in this watch. Mean,
On the Run is a song with a wow finish, but that's true. About it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. She just runs out offended by his drunkenness, and he just falls into his hands in despair. Basically, it's a very bleak situation. We go to the chief of police's office, and Strasser orders the cafe be searched for these papers because he suspects that they're there somewhere, because Ugarte didn't have them on him when they arrested him. And then we get the interrogation / meeting of Victor Laszlo and Ilsa, who come in. This is in the foreground. We see the young couple that sort of have a play within a play sort of role coming up later. I just like that they're introduced so early here, but you would not even notice.
Right?
Yeah, and so we get a bit more info about Laszlo. He's been evading the Reich, but trying to capture him. But again, they can't because he's on neutral soil. Again, this isn't a possible thing, but whatever. They say either way, he's not going to be leaving Casablanca, because the only way to leave is to have the visas signed by Louis. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be doing that. I fully apologize, but that's just not going to be happening. So the Strasser offers Laszlo a deal that if he gives over the leaders of all the resistance, like all the underground resistance leaders, like across Europe, their names and locations, he's like, oh, then I'll take you to occupied France where we'll watch over you, but you'll be safe. And it's like, what kind of bargaining chip is that, dude? Oh, bloody Nazis. Anyway. Yeah, so Laszlo obviously refuses this, and he's like, even if you found and killed them all, others would rise up and take their place. That's how resistance works. And yeah, they're like, okay, well, we tried. You'd be interested to know that Ugarte has been killed while in police custody. And they're like, oh, geez. And yeah, very callously, Louis, that probably his most callous moment in the film, this one scene, is he says, yeah, it's like, I haven't decided if it was like resisting or arrest or suicide. I'm still working on the paperwork. And it's like, dude. Oh,
yeah, you know how you like this guy?
Yeah.
I don't think I do. I think we need to talk about your friend Louis.
Yeah, no, this is bad. This is not good. I'm not going to defend this at all. He shouldn't do this. I'm just saying that by the end of the film, you'll like him.
Okay.
You'll like the man he secretly is, behind all this horrible stuff that he does. All right, Gareth?
It's like you're vouching for him to come to a party. It's like, look, by the end of the night, you'll like him.
Listen, I know he deals drugs, but I know he brings his pyrotechnics to every party, Gareth, but
I know he did his devil sticks in the hallway last time he was here, and they wrecked everything.
But
and he brought his dog.
Weren't you impressed though when the dog caught the devil stick? It was pretty cool. Louis great, Gareth. I don't know what you mean. No. Anyway, he does another horrible thing here right at the end of the scene as he is
that's right.
Yeah, he is extorting girls for sex to give them visas, basically. He's like making deals with like women that he finds attractive and then using like his power to give them visas to escape Casablanca. It's really awful. Like, that is, absolutely condemnable. Oh, gosh. Anyway.
Yeah, it's wild as well that this got past like the strict censorship of movies back then. Like, because this is just an upsetting idea. And they like had to remove every all the hints that Rick and Elsa may have had sex.
Yeah.
But they kept this the way worse thing.
Yeah, right. Like that says a lot about the time, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
How chaste like sex is in America. Anyway, we get into time solo as Rick goes to the Blue Parrot to visit Ferrari again, talking about business, like the shipment of goods. Presumably they are both supplied by the same person in Casablanca for like how they run their bars. And they have a chat and they have a fairly frank conversation where Ferrari like calls him out. He's like, I think you have those letters of transit there, Rick, and I'd be willing to sell them for you for a small fee, of course. Consummate businessman Ferrari, just such a guy. And Rick's like, nah, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. I'm over here at the cafe while they're looking for those letters of transit, man. I don't know if they'll find them. So yeah, the police are like ransacking his cafe. And as he leaves, Laszlo's like coming in to bargain for a visa with Ferrari, and Rick just like tells him where he is, like straight up, which is so funny. He's like, yeah, this is the big guy at the bar. He's like, he didn't even ask, but yeah, it's so good. And yeah, Rick goes over to Ilsa, who's like shopping in the market, and the salesman like progressively drops his price quickly because the more he realizes how close Ilsa is to Rick, which is so funny. Like he starts by like ripping her off, and he's like, oh, for a friend of Rick's we could do 200 francs, and he's like, oh, for a very special friend of Rick's we could do 100 francs.
And he's like, just getting ignored the whole time.
Yeah, it's really good.
I love.
Oh, he's fantastic. And then he like once he like misjudged the relationship completely, he's like, oh, actually, I've got something else I could show you. I'm going to go over here now. Like,
yeah.
And yeah, we get into a great gig as these guys have a chat again after Rick has sobered up significantly. And he's like, hey, I want to know what happened. I'm really sorry about last night. He doesn't apologize, actually. He says, I was in a bad state last night or something. And she's like, I don't want to tell you now because you're completely changed from the man that I knew when you were in Paris. And she couldn't possibly tell this Rick. She could only tell the Rick she knew then, basically. And yeah, she's like, we should just stay away from each other. I'll be leaving soon anyway. And we can just remember the good days that we had together rather than the time in Casablanca. And yeah. And Rick, again, still like hurt and chagrined. He's like, oh, well, you'll leave Laszlo eventually. Just like you did me, that's how you are. And she's like, no, I won't leave Laszlo. He's my husband, and he was my husband even when we were together in Paris. And Rick's like, what? Like dumbfounded, brutal, like another like haymaker basically to his psyche. But anyway, she goes in to meet with Ferrari and Laszlo there, and he's saying that it may be possible, while it's impossible to get Victor like papers to get out, it may be possible for Ilsa. And Victor's all for it, but Ilsa's like, no, you stayed behind for me many times, like risking your life because we were on the run, not the song. And yeah, he like, why didn't when I was holding you up, why didn't you leave me? And he's like, oh, something always delayed me, basically. Yeah. And she's like, what? We're looking for 2 passports to get out. 2 letters of transit is the only way we get out of here. And Ferrari's like, well, that's all right. I'm glad. I'm sorry. And he says, I've got a piece of information for you, even though it serves me no purpose to give you this information because I can't possibly profit from it. But yeah, those letters of transit from the couriers weren't on Ugati's body when he died, and that Rick is the person to go to. So we'll cut to Rick's, where the pickpocket is back and doing his thing, just like as a fun background character. And Strasser and the Germans roll in, and Rick is again drinking himself silly, like drinking out of his own merchandise. The waiter comments that he's becoming his own best customer, which I think is very good. And Louis comes over and outright asks Rick about if he has the letters of transit. He's like, do you have those letters of transit? And Rick is like, are you Vichy French or Free French? Basically asking what side Louis is actually on, suspecting that like he's playing both sides. And Louis is like, oh, good answer. Never mind. And yeah, so we go into money, and there's a fight breaking out at the bar between a Frenchman and a German. Again, there's like 2 like in full uniform officers in the army, like on complete opposite sides of the war, are like side by side at the bar. Bizarre. And yeah, a fight breaks out between them, to which Rick kicks both of them out, saying like, no politics in my bar.
Yeah.
Hilarious. And Strasser sees this and he's like, well, you can see like this bar has to be shut down because there are French people here expressing their opinions. And Louis is like, well, we can't regulate people's feelings, is what he says. And Strasser implies that it would be dangerous for Victor Laszlo to both stay and leave Casablanca, if you get my meaning. And then, we get like into this play within a play sort of situation where the girl that we saw earlier in the police station comes over to Rick, and she is being extorted. She's the one being extorted by Louis for the visa, and is asking Rick, like pleading with Rick to like determine if Louis is true to his word and that he will give her a visa if she sleeps with him. It's really horrible. And Rick like is sort of defeated and says like he's always kept his word before, like even though it's like a horrible thing that he knows that this guy does, he's like, yeah, he'll do it. But and she asks him, if you loved someone very much so that your happiness was the only thing she wanted, so that your happiness was the only thing she wanted in the world, and she did a bad thing to make certain that that happiness would stay, would you do it? So the implication here being like someone did something horrible to protect someone that they love, you know?
Yeah.
An important plot point, you could say. And Rick says that no one's ever loved him that way, so he's never had to think about it.
It's classic, bit of classic story writing in that you have the B plot speak the like lesson of the A plot to the character in the A plot. You know?
Exactly, and they're just like, "What the fuck? What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But yeah, he proves how he really feels because he goes over to the gambling den and rigs the roulette game, basically. Yeah. There's a special button or something on the roulette wheel.
Not quite sure.
Some kind of magnet contraption that makes it land on 22 and makes it so that her husband wins at the gambling so that they can buy the visas rather than be extorted for them. Yay! And yeah, everyone's stoked about it, except for Louis, who clocks this immediately, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bar staff are like cheering for him, basically, saying that he's done this wonderful thing. He's like no longer this Grinch who his icy heart melted and he's actually helped someone for fucking once. And yeah, the bar staff like can't believe it. They come over and give him hugs and stuff. And yeah, Louis comes over to him and he's like, I see, you are a rank sentimentalist, you bastard. And he's like, I'll forgive you this time, but I'll be coming in with a very cute blonde tomorrow. And you better leave her alone. It's like, dude. But yeah, so like, there's sort of an implication here that like he doesn't mind that this has happened. And Rick is like doing the right thing, and he knows exactly what Rick has done, but again doesn't arrest him. Like he could arrest him like immediately for this, for all kinds of like trumped up charges, but doesn't. So yeah. Anyway, there's a lot going on in that little sequence. But yeah, so Laszlo comes over to Rick at the bar and they go up to his office where Laszlo's like trying to buy these letters of transit, and Rick's like, no, fuck off. I'm not selling them to you. Even if I had them, I wouldn't sell them to you at any price. And when Laszlo's like, why, dude? He's like, you should ask your wife, which is cryptic and mean.
Yeah, the perfect combo.
Yeah, so yeah, it's still not good. It's like after doing that really nice thing, Rick has not learned his lesson at all. Yeah. Still not willing to do the noble thing. Still burned by Ilsa. They go back downstairs because there's some kind of disturbance as the Germans have stolen Sam's piano, apprehended the piano napped, and singing a song, "The Watch on the Rhine." Like a German nationalist song. They're belting it out. And Laszlo immediately goes over to the band and requests that they play La Marseillaise, the French national anthem. And Rick gives the nod, like a go-ahead kind of thing for this. And yeah, Laszlo starts singing the song, and eventually the whole bar starts singing La Marseillaise and drowning out the Watch on the Rhine song, which is such a powerful scene in Casablanca.
Yeah.
Like just the whole bar singing the French national anthem while France is occupied in World War II. It's like, it's really, really good. And we are drowning it out with Pink Floyd.
I know. The fact it's happening during this actual war is amazing.
Yeah.
But like, the fact that the whole point is it's a band drowning out another band for all the right reasons, and we're drowning it out for the silliest reason.
Yeah, exactly. Never mind. We're getting Us and Them again. So like at least we're getting like the iconic scenes on Us and Them playing, so that's working.
Yeah.
But we get the like short, sharp shock sort of sequence over this as well, over them belting out this lovely story, which I guess it would be for the Germans. But anyway, very like put out by all of this, Major Strasser is like, well, fuck these guys. I'm closing the cafe. Demands that Louis close the bar down, and he's like, well, find a reason to do so, because he's all pissed off about getting his song drowned out. And so Louis springs into action, shuts the bar down for illegal gambling taking place there. And like, I love that he is giving this explanation and then someone runs in and gives him his winnings from the gambling. And he's like, oh, thank you very much. Everyone go. It's so funny. Such a good bit. Oh my God.
It's very silly and a little out of like the film's tone, but it is. I think it's also because it's happening in this like very kind of all is lost moment of the film as well. It's a very good little undercut.
Yeah, it's very, very funny. I love that part. Everyone leaves. While everyone is leaving, Strasser goes over and like threatens Ilse with basically the three options that Laszlo is currently faced with if he would in charge. They can take the deal and go to occupied France under observation. Laszlo gets put into a concentration camp, or the streets of Casablanca are very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
AKA, we'll kill him. So not great options for Ilse. No. Very threatening. Nasty guy. Yeah. There we go. We go into Any Color You Like as they go up to their like hotel room, and Laszlo's like, well, I'm going to go off to my underground secret meeting of resistance fighters. And she's like, don't do that. That is very dumb. I've just heard that you're going to be killed on the streets. And he's like, well, I could cower here, or I could continue being brave as I've always done and keep fighting. And she's like, you're going to fight no matter what I tell you, huh? He comes over and talks about the letters that Rick refused to sell, saying, ask your wife. And Ilse's like, and Laszlo does pry into what that relationship was. He's like, clearly there's like some kind of past there. Is there anything you wish to tell me? He goes full fucking Dumbledore. And then, she's like, no, I don't want to talk about it. And like looks into his eyes and says like, it doesn't matter. And he's like, yep, that's all you needed to say. Like, he just says like, I will believe you now. Like it doesn't like, clearly something happened, but if you don't want to talk about it and it doesn't matter now, that's all I needed to hear, you know, which is like very noble, really. Like, yeah. And yeah, so he goes off to his, resistance meeting, and she sneaks out to go and see Rick to try and get the papers. Like appearing in his office by like climbing through the window. Not sure how she manages this. It is the second story, but fair enough. Anyway,
she got beamed up.
Oh, she gets beamed up. Beam me up, Scotty. Is what she says. But I mean, up one story, please, Scotty. Can you beam me up that far?
Beam me up, then stop beaming me up pretty quickly.
Very quickly. How accurate is your matter transporter, Scotty? Anyway, we go into brain damage as they are like arguing about these letters. He still won't give over the transit letters. even that when she like appeals to his sense of nobility, and that like they're both fighting on the same side. Like he's fought for the underdog before, why can't he now? That kind of thing. And Rick is very callous and still says like he won't believe anything she says at this point because she'd say anything to get the letters of transit. So even if she told the full story now, he wouldn't believe it because he's too burnt. And so she calls him a coward and a weakling who has abandoned all hope, and he looks out only for himself. He's become this like shell of a man. And she says, if you don't help, then Victor will die in Casablanca. And he's like, what of it? I'm going to die in Casablanca. It's a bloody good spot for it. It's like, jeez, dude. And he bloody proves it as well, because she points a gun at him, being like, I'll shoot you if you don't give me those papers. And he's like, let me make it easy for you. And he like walks right into the barrel. It says, go ahead and shoot. You'd be doing me a favor. It's like, whew, man. He got it bad. He loved Ilsa. And yeah, she like can't believe it and lowers the gun and confesses her love for Rick, basically. Says that she still loves him even now. And yeah, he still loves her. And they embrace each other. And then, we go into like the final stretches of brain damage into Eclipse. And we finally get the explanation as to what happened with her in France. And she's like in love with Rick still and is belting out all this information. Again, like he said that he wouldn't believe her, but he fully believes her, but whatever. So when she was with Rick in Paris, she thought that her husband, Victor Laszlo, had died in a concentration camp. He'd been arrested, taken to a concentration camp in the night, and 2 months into that, she thought that he had been shot trying to escape. And then, like distraught, she met Rick and truly did fall in love with him. And she kept her marriage to Victor a secret because she had all these kinds of secrets, and she kept it a secret from everyone, not just from Rick. Because he had all these government secrets, and if they found out that they were together, then like she would be tortured, Rick would be tortured, like all kinds of stuff. You know, they couldn't let that. They were protecting each other. And she found out that Victor was alive the day before the Germans marched into Paris, and he was like outside of town and had to go and see him. And yeah, that's why she left the note, so that Rick would go on the train to protect him, because he would have stayed regardless. If she hadn't shown, like if she had said that she wouldn't go, he would have stayed. Yeah. So she had to tell him that she was going and then give him the note so that he would go and protect himself and not be killed by Germans. Because she genuinely did love him. So it's very sad.
It's like when you have to yell at a dog to stop it eating chocolate, you know?
Exactly.
The dog hates you for it.
Yeah. I get it, dog. I love eating chocolate, but it's not good for you. It's not good for your little dog. Right?
No. You'll never be able to catch a devil stick if you're sick from chocolate.
Exactly. Get on that train, dog.
The train away from the chocolate that's marched into Dogtown.
Oh my god. We have a very different view of what happens in Casablanca, Garrett.
At least if a dog watches Casablanca, doesn't notice that it's not in colour.
Yeah, that's true. That is good. Perfect.
Yeah. Did you see the ads have you seen the ads for Colour Casablanca?
What?
They put it out in colour in the 80s, and this amazing ad, it's on YouTube.
Wow.
They show a test audience, like a focus group, watching 2 TVs at the same time.
Whoa.
A very Pink Floyd concept.
Yeah.
And then like they track which one the crowd of people look at more. And it's like, wow, 9 out of 10 people looked more at the colour version. And then these like...
Duh.
corn dog people, like man on the street interviews afterwards are like, yeah, I thought I wouldn't like it in color, but I did. And then one person's just like, it's a great movie. And it's like, you didn't like it in color.
Yeah, dude, they're just looking at the more novel thing, regardless of like whether it's better or not. They've seen one of them before, you know? Like, what the fuck? They should have gotten like people who had never seen like the movie before into the studio, you know? Oh, yeah. There's no accounting for taste.
Even then, two TVs, 80s TVs next to each other. Yeah,
the perfect way.
You're going to look at the bright color.
The perfect way to watch Casablanca for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Take the Casablanca challenge, folks, and watch it on two TVs, one in color.
Yeah, one in color, one in black and white, and one with Pink Floyd playing instead of the sounds. Oh god, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
That's the Pink Floyd cut of Casablanca.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It gets real confusing when the national anthem scenes play, the dual anthems. Anyway. So yeah, Rick asks, like, after hearing all this, he's like, so what now? And she doesn't know what she wants to do. She knows that she's in love with Rick and she can't bring herself to leave him again because she is very much in love with him. And she asks him to do the thinking for both of them as we have the heartbeats between the albums coming in for the third play. Here we go. And Rick agrees to do it. He will do the thinking for both of them. He's looking at you, kid. Right at the end of the album. Let's go. Play through 3. So we see Laszlo like come into the bar. He's like narrowly evaded arrest as the underground meeting was raided by police, as you would expect. It's very dangerous on the streets of Casablanca, Gareth. And they hiding at this at Rick's empty Rick's, and Rick gets the waiter Carl to take Ilsa away, take her home, and he's like, I'll sort it all out. It's all good. What does he say? I'll give the I think he promises to give the papers to Laszlo, and she'll stay here with him, I think is what he says here. I'm not entirely certain.
Yeah, because he's telling a lot of people a lot of different things.
Yeah, there's a lot of web of lies sort of stuff happening now in order to get the plan in motion. He's doing the thinking for everyone, Gareth. And we go into Breathe, and Laszlo talks to Rick, and he says like that they mutually love the same girl, Ilsa, and it like he doesn't like pry into like their relationship or anything. And he's like, "What you should like? You may not like me, but you should at least give the letters of transit to her so that she can be safe. There's no reason for like to punish her. You should like let her go." So he's saying like he's willing to sacrifice his own freedom and life to let her go free, in spite of like all those times that he has waited for her and got her all the way to Casablanca, and he's willing to like sacrifice himself. It's crazy, great, like very true love kind of thing.
What a dude.
Yeah, and Rick is still being very cagey, doesn't let on anything about Ilsa being up in his room or whatever, and the police burst in to arrest Laszlo on some bullshit charge that we don't even know. Like the policeman's like, they're like, "We've got a warrant for your arrest." And he's like, "On what charge?" And he's like, "We'll talk about that later." It's pretty good. Rick says, "It appears that destiny has taken hand." It's like, okay, dramatic. And then, Rick goes to Louis the next day. Laszlo's in prison, and he's trying to persuade Louis to release Laszlo from prison in order to set him up for this bigger crime. Basically, his plan here is that they do like a sort of sting operation where Louis releases him and then arranges for him to buy Rick arranges for him to buy the letters of transit from him. And then Louis swoops in and arrests him on the charges of the murders of the couriers because he's in possession of these letters. And that would very much impress the major because there'd be this huge arrest and there'd be all over the papers that this freedom fighter was arrested for the murder of the Germans, and he got punished like in the most severe way imaginable. So it would be this huge spectacle kind of thing to make Louis look really good. And he's like, yeah, that's cool. But why would you be doing this? Like, what do you have to gain from this situation? Because he knows Rick too well, again, is very suspicious of him. And Rick assuages his fears by saying that he would be taking the opportunity to use the letters for himself to whisk Ilsa away from Casablanca and away from Laszlo because he's in love with her and doesn't want, like, Laszlo's the last person he wants to see in America, is what he says.
Yeah.
Like, well, why would you take Ilsa? And he's like, well, I'm worried about her safety because of what she knows about Laszlo, and so I'll protect her that way, you know? Like, and Rick's like, I'll make the deal with Laszlo in the cell here. I'll go in right now. And Louis' like, great, okay, I agree. He thinks it's an incredibly devious plan. And he says that he'll really miss Rick because he's the only one with less scruples than himself in Casablanca, is what he says. Keeping to his word, Rick goes to the Blue Parrot and he sells the cafe to Ferrari and all the staff and everything, like sells everything over and like negotiates the contracts. Sam gets 25% of the business, boss, and also all of his staff keep their jobs. Double boss. This dude rules. What a great employer. Man, looking after everybody out in Casablanca. Shout outs to Rick. And Ferrari's like, yeah, sweet, all good. I'll take care of the cafe. I can't believe that you're leaving, basically. And that's a wrap on Ferrari.
End of every scene he's in, he swats a fly.
Yes, it's true. What is the deal with that? I love it. He's just like this portly businessman who's swatting flies constantly. He's got like some kind of like Peanuts character curse where he's constantly surrounded by flies.
Yeah, it's the same fly. The fly just keeps like
it's immortal,
building its strength up.
Yeah. It's his companion. He's been cursed by a demonic fly who just follows him everywhere. Whispers sweet nothings into his ear.
Helps him fall asleep, but at what cost?
Yeah, you can read more about it in my book adaptation of Casablanca called Ferrari's Fly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I loved the chapter from the point of view of the swatter. That was very much needed.
There were 5 more, but they got cut. So we go to the closed cafe as Louis arrives, and Rick is like stashing the letters of transit away in the envelope. And we like are finishing up on the run for this as we get the crash sound coming in, when again not really syncing. They're just having a chat. He reveals that he hid the letters in the piano, and he's like, oh, never would have thought to search the piano when we're searching your entire cafe. It's like, okay, fair enough. And in the silence between the crash sound and the clocks going off, Laszlo and Ilsa arrive, and Rick assures Ilsa that they'll tell Laszlo that she's staying behind on the tarmac at the airport to give him less time to think about it. And she's like, okay, good. We get all the clocks going off. And the deal is about to go down, the fake deal. Louis is hiding in the office. And as they're like handing over the papers, Louis comes down to arrest Laszlo. Laszlo, rather. And all is planned. But Rick does the switcheroo and points a gun at the completely unarmed chief of police who is out here making arrests. Points a gun at his friend and is like, a friend, and forces him to assist in their escape. He's like, go and call the airport and tell them that we're coming and that there's not to be any trouble. And he's like, it's really, really funny because he says, he's pointing this gun at him, and he's like, sit down over there, I don't really want to shoot you, etc. And then Louis says, under the circumstances, I will sit down. Very good. He's just such an eloquent guy. And
that little line just to, I've still got the power.
Yeah.
I'll sit down.
That's fine. And he's making the call, and Rick tells him, remember, this gun is pointed right at your heart. And Louis says, that is my least vulnerable spot. So good. So they roll on the airport. It's a foggy filled night out here as the plane is still taking off, coming into land from Lisbon. We're getting time, the verse coming in as everyone is getting out of the car. Rick instructs Louis to go and fill in the letters as Victor Laszlo has run over to hail the plane, I guess. I don't really know what he's up to. I guess put the bags on the plane. He instructs Louis to fill in the papers and says to put in the names Mr. and Mrs. Victor Laszlo. She's like, what? That's not what we agreed. And Rick gives this wonderful, impassioned speech about how she would regret staying here. It's a classic monologue. I'm not going to do it for you, but it's really, really good. There's another little cutaway line to Louis who's filling in these papers where he says we would if you stay here we'd both be put into a concentration camp, right, Louis? And Louis like, I'm afraid Major Strasser would insist. Which is again very funny.
Such a polite way to say about the worst possible thing.
You'd be put into a concentration camp. And he's saying that, you really regret if you stayed. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon for the rest of your life. And also, we'll always have Paris. We've got all the quotes now, I think. That's all the 6, probably.
I didn't know, I knew we'll always have Paris, but I liked way more the line after, where it's we didn't have it until last night, and now we have it back. Yeah. It's so sweet.
Very, very good. Yeah. The whole thing is really beautifully written, and she's just sort of shocked, and because she didn't know this whole thing. But he sort of tricked both of them into thinking that the other one would be going, and then they end up both going. He is the hero at the end of the day. He delivers a final catchphrase. Here's looking at you, kid. Laszlo comes back, and he does reveal to her that Ilsa came asking for the letters to try and convince him to hand them over, and she's said that she was still in love with him, with Rick, and he let her pretend that, but it was long ago, and there's nothing now. He hands them letters, and Laszlo's thanks him and welcomes him back to the fighting the good fight against the Nazis, because he's a hero for helping him escape. They get on the plane and say goodbye. As Pink Floyd agree, they say, thought I had something more to say, as we get the tempo change in time as they're getting on the plane. There's a little back and forth between Louis and Rick here. He says that he knew that he just from the way she was talking, he figures that Ilsa didn't know that she was going to be going on the plane and was lying about the reasons why she was going. Basically, she knew that he could tell that she was definitely in love with Rick, and was lying about being okay about leaving. And he says, it's going to be very unpleasant for both of us now. You realize that, Rick? And right on cue, Strasser arrives in his car. And he's like, "What the fuck? What's going on here?" And Louis like, "Well, Victor Laszlo's on that plane taking off." And Strasser's like, "What?" And he's like, "You should ask Mr. Rick about that." And then he goes over to like call it in to, I guess, the rest of the group of Nazis or whatever. And Rick warns him that he'll shoot him, and Strasser doesn't give a shit, and then he gets shot. So there you go. Rick shoots him in the chest right at the end of time. Hell yeah. And we go into Great Gig for the rest of the film. Like police rush in as they hear this gunshot and rush over to see Strasser dead, and Louis, as chief of police, says, Major Strasser has been shot. And then he says, "Round up the usual suspects," and they exchange this look, him and Rick, where instead of arresting Rick, he's saying what he always says in these situations and just rounds up like a bunch of criminals off the street, rounds up a bunch of random people like he always does. Protecting Rick in this final moment, even though Rick like pointed a gun at him and made him do all this stuff. And he walks over to the desk after Major Strasser's body is carried away by the policeman, and says that Rick has not only become a sentimentalist, but he's become a bloody patriot. He can't believe it, and he fills up this glass with Vichy water, representing Vichy France, and then tosses the bottle. He says, "I think that makes a lot of sense." Basically, he's like, "Sounds about right to me." And then like he throws that bottle into the bin and kicks it, which I found very funny. It's a pretty obvious metaphor here that he is
close up and everything.
Yeah, like he is either abandoning like that alliance in like. He's abandoning that side and going over to the underground, or he always was and was like sort of underground and letting things slip. But it's not entirely clear. But like he's definitely on the goodies side at the end of the movie, in spite of all the horrible shit that he did. But yeah, he made the right call in this last minute. And they just walk out into the fog together. And he suggests that they run away and join the Free French, the underground French alliance, the resistance. And Rick is like, "We? What are you talking about?" And they talk about their bet because Laszlo got away. And he's like, "Well, you winning the bet, that should pay for our expenses and our trip to France." And he's like, "Well, I think this is the start of a beautiful friendship." I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship, actually, is what he says. There you go. And that's the final line of the movie, as they walk off as friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. The end. Title card. As we get in the Great Gig vocals washing over us like waves, Gareth.
Yeah. Now, it is the end, but...
It is.
Okay. Season 9, episode, 22 of The Simpsons.
Okay.
Features Bart and Lisa digging up the alternative ending to Casablanca.
What?
Where Louis then pulls a gun on Rick.
No!
Sam's there playing the piano, goes, "Look out, Ricky's packing," kills him with the piano. Then Hitler's in the piano, but then Elsa lands and Hitler gets exploded by his own grenade within the piano.
Wow.
And they get married. Now, you may be like, why is Gareth explaining the joke from a Simpsons episode? It's because I then had that queued up and continued watching with Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon playing.
Yes.
Very sad to report, no additional syncs to be found in that ending.
It doesn't
it's just a little...
Doesn't sync with the end of Great Gig?
Nah, a little bit more Great Gig. Great Gig's still happening when it ends.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you get a little more piano when you see Sam play a piano, but yeah, sorry to report.
Oh, well.
Yeah, that's why they buried that ending.
Fair enough. Oh my god, what did you think? How did it sing?
Overall?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at my little A4 of notes, which does look insane, especially where I had to draw Peter Lorre to remember which character he was.
Yeah.
There's more notes about the plot than there is of Syncs. In fact, I filled in the Sync side with more notes on the plot, which I never do.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. We've had a few thematics, but other than that, I'm thinking it's pretty low.
There's some nice ones. Like the things with like the major plot points happening on Us and Them both times is good. There's like, he says, I forgot to mention this earlier, but he does say here's looking at you, kid, right as the album ends twice. So that's cool. Yeah, so that's a pretty big one. But like beyond that,
and Us and Them does say it's a battle of words when they're doing their battle of the national anthems.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, this might be a strong turnaround.
Nah, I still think it's not very high. There's really not that many, and like, yeah, it's just too few and far between. There were the ones that we got were good, but like, yeah, no, it's not high. I would say like 2 probably, 2 or 1.
Yeah, let's go for a 2, but I'm picturing it's in the top of the 2s.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the tippy top 2s.
Tippy top 2s.
Ooh,
on the tippy top of your tippy toe.
Yeah,
there you go. Casablanca, a classic, covered.
Yeah, we're all wrapped up in our Casablanca.
No, nice and warm. What are we doing?
Yeah, off mic, we had a race to see who was going to say that joke, and we both forgot.
Took to the end of the show. Oh, God. So what's happening now next week, old Gareth Casablanca? What are we doing?
Well, look, we are men of science. We've come this far, and it's only right that we then, like how you'd distribute a placebo to check that your medicine's working, we should head back to a movie that got a 5, a movie that was right in the middle and got a 5, and we should test it with some other albums,
Yep.
It's you hear the glaives are ringing. It's the Holiday season.
Yes.
We're going to be watching 80s flop movie Kroll.
It's back, baby.
It's back in a big way. I actually have a few Kroll-related surprises for you.
Oh.
And we're going to watch it with each other's albums of the year.
Yes.
And shall we start with my album of the year?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, yes, until the next episode, listeners, sit down and listen to an album called Sometimes I Might Be Introvert by Little Sims. It doesn't sound a lot like Pink Floyd, but it is very epic in scope and very good. And yeah, get ready for 2 weeks of Kroll before we make a huge dive deep into the sand for a very special movie that is about a very special boy.
The Sandlot movie franchise. The whole thing.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
We're going to get like a bunch of Sandlot heads. Really excited.
Just before our Holiday special, yeah.
And then even then, they might be a little disappointed when we worm our way out of it.
Yeah, oh.
Hey.
Yeah, cool. Catch us on the socials. Sing Floyd Pod at gmail.com, at twitter.com, at I don't know, twitch.tv. We're live now, baby. I've been live streaming this whole recording. No.
You're just live streaming your side.
Yeah.
So it's just you like nodding
just
and
me
occasionally
talking to my microphone and like nothing happening for your audio. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So hit us up with what's your album of the year?
Yeah. That'd be amazing to hear that.
Let us know. And yeah, I'll probably give it a listen if you if you speak to us, if you speak to me. There we go. Looking forward to it. Holidays.
Yeah.
Have a happy Holidays.
Hey, happy Holidays to all. Now, my phone is just blowing up and it's saying,
whoa.
It's saying, don't be a Nazi, and Humphrey Bogart still not back.
There you go.
But until the Holidays, and have a great, happy, safe rest of 2021. Until then, I've been Gareth Blackler.
I've been James Barron.
And we'll see you on the dark side of the moon.
On the dark side of the moon. Here's looking at you, kid.
Yeah.